Not every revolution starts with noise. Some begin in silence, in the quiet confidence of a man who believed bourbon could be more than a commodity. A man who tasted possibility where others saw decline. His name was Elmer T. Lee. And he did not just change Buffalo Trace. He changed bourbon forever. In 1949, a young man from Kentucky walked into the distillery looking for work. The industry did not know his name. The world did not know what he would one day create. But fate had a way of placing the right people in the right rickhouse at the right time.
Well, Elmer T. Lee came here in 1949. Albert Blanton was the owner and, the general manager. And he asked Albert Blanton for a job, and Albert Blanton said, "We're not hiring today, son." So as he's leaving, he ran into the master distiller, and he said, "Look, you come back tomorrow and you can start working." So he came back the next day. Albert Blanton saw him. He said, "I thought I told you we weren't hiring," but he was already working. So that's how he first started at the distillery.
That mixture of rejection, chance, and opportunity was the first barrel of Elmer's journey. A journey that would carry the distillery through a fading bourbon market and into a new golden age. Elmer started where nearly everyone did, with small jobs, hard work, and long days. But he had something you cannot train, something rare, a palate that could see the future of bourbon before anyone else.
He wanted a better quality whiskey, and he knew what he liked. And to this day, Elmer T. Lee bourbon is my favorite because of how the flavors he was looking for in his bourbon. And he saw the future. He saw the future of bourbon, and he looked ahead.
Elmer was not just making whiskey. He was shaping taste, finding nuance, learning the subtle language of barrels and aging. Every barrel he sampled, every flavor he chased, pushed him closer to an idea the industry was not ready to hear. By the early 1980s, bourbon was at one of its lowest points. Sales fell, warehouses filled, and many doubted the spirit would ever recover. But Elmer remembered Albert Blanton's private tradition of selecting special barrels for honored guests, and he asked himself a question no one else had dared to ask. What if every bourbon lover could experience a barrel chosen with that same care?
Releasing a single barrel bourbon in the middle 1980s was really risky because nobody had done it before. Nobody has done it before. And Shenley still owned this distillery. Well, Elmer would go back to Warehouse H and pick out barrels because nobody was buying bourbon at that point. That was a really big lull in the bourbon industry. So he went back to Warehouse H to pick out barrels for these single barrel bourbons, and that's how Blanton's bourbon got started. He would bottle it the same way he did for Albert Blanton.
This was not a marketing stunt. It was a resurrection. A gamble based not on trends, but on craftsmanship. The bourbon world did not know it yet, but the single barrel movement had just begun. When Elmer proposed the first single barrel bourbon, even the distillery hesitated. Why? Because quality demands courage and sometimes cost.
Shenley originally said, we're not going to go for this because Elmer said he wanted to charge $25 a bottle. Back then, it was insane. People couldn't imagine paying $25 a bottle. And originally, most of the Blanton's bourbon was exported.
$25. In today's money, a small luxury. Back then, a bold statement. But Elmer believed bourbon deserved to be valued, not discounted. He believed craftsmanship had a price. And soon, the world agreed. and then something remarkable happened. What began as a quiet experiment inside Warehouse H became the spark that reignited the bourbon industry.
Well, it was the reason the bourbon industry took off again, started building. And it's not just Elmer, it's Jimmy Russell from Wild Turkey, Bill Samuels from Maker's Mark, Booker Noe from Jim Beam. It was all of these guys together. They kind of at the same time saw that there was a future in bourbon, and they wanted to boost the quality of the bourbon to sell more.
Bourbon did not just rebound, it soared. A handful of visionaries, Elmer among them, turned a dying category into a global phenomenon. And at the center of this revolution was a modest man who tasted greatness in each barrel. Elmer T. Lee did not shout his achievements. He whispered them in the character of his barrels. He stitched them into every bottle of Blanton's. And he left a mark that will never fade from the rickhouses of this distillery. His legacy lives not just in whiskey, but in the philosophy he shaped, that every barrel has a story, and every story deserves to be told. But the evolution of Buffalo Trace did not stop with Elmer. The distillery was preparing for its largest transformation yet, one that would carry it from a regional distillery into a global icon.